and a Prime Minister whose leadership was the envy of the world. Well, they were just some of the newsmakers who wrote history in 2019. Tonight, we take a look back at the moments that have shaped our world.
In an era of constant change, 2019 stood out as the year of extreme uncertainty, where old orders were swept aside and at times historical foundations seemed on the brink of collapse. Even world leaders were left wondering what just happened. There was celebration of some arrivals and relief at some departures. And throughout the year, the news feed about and from one man was constant.
The 45th President of the United States and your favorite president, I think.
Donald Trump continued his role as disruptor-in-chief, doing what no sitting US president had done before, stepping across the border into North Korea to shake hands with dictator Kim Jong-un. Trump hailed it a success.
Just the meeting is historic.
Yet there was little tangible result. The Hermit Kingdom continues its missile testing. John Bolton became Trump's third national security advisor to be ousted or quit. More controversially, the president announced the sudden withdrawal of US forces in northern Syria, widely condemned as a betrayal of Kurdish allies who'd led the military defeat of ISIS. One name dominated much of Donald Trump's year: Robert Mueller. The former FBI chief led the probe into Russian interference in the 2016 US election. He found while Russia tried to help Trump win, there wasn't evidence of a conspiracy with the campaign. But on obstruction of justice by Trump and his staff, he was inconclusive. The president said Robert Mueller totally exonerated him.
And what about total exoneration? Did you actually totally exonerate the president?
No.
And thanks to a whistleblower, we learned that hours after Mueller's testimony, Donald Trump rang the president of Ukraine, a call that would lead to him becoming the fourth US president in history to face impeachment for trying to withhold military aid unless the fragile nation started an inquiry into Joe Biden's son.
What's going on now is the single greatest scam in the history of American politics.
In Britain, 3 years after the Brexit vote, the deadlock continued to take its toll.
Order!
After successive agreements with the European Union were thrown out by the British Parliament, Theresa May finally bowed to the inevitable and stepped down as Prime Minister.
To have had the opportunity to serve the country I love.
And step in Boris Johnson, a man often considered Britain's answer to Donald Trump, albeit with an Oxford education. Johnson vowed he would get Brexit done, and soon ran into the same street protests and Westminster intransigence that thwarted his predecessor.
Another pointless delay to Brexit.
An election was the only answer. Johnson, widely rated as untrustworthy in opinion polls, versus his Labour opponent Jeremy Corbyn, the most unpopular opposition leader in polling history. Across the world, climate change led to mass protests as the Amazon forests, known as the Earth's lungs, burned. A sole teenage protester from Sweden became the figurehead for the environmental movement.
You all come to us young people for hope. How dare you?
People power was no more potent than in Hong Kong, yet the darkest recesses of the online world were exposed in the most sickening of ways. A gunman opened fire at mosques in New Zealand, streamed live on Facebook as he murdered 51 people.
This is one of New Zealand's darkest days.
But more dark clouds loomed. The disaster on White Island would unite our two nations in grief. Heading into the new year, one of the biggest international events will be the US presidential election, the first ever where the incumbent is under the shadow of impeachment. The outcome is unpredictable. Hindsight, like the year, will be 2020. Brett McLeod, 9 News.
Oh, to the weather now.